I walked in and I already knew. They expected me to pay. Again. Empty plates, half-full glasses, the faint scent of wine and butter lingering in the air. My mom looked up, her smile gentle but rehearsed. "Oh, you're late. You don't mind taking care of the bill, do you?" My eyes flicked to the check folder. My jaw tightened. Tonight, I wouldn't just pay. Tonight, I would stop being their default solution. Tiffany smirked, scrolling her phone, perfectly unbothered. She always ruled the room. Every mood, every opinion, dictated everything. And I was quiet, invisible, always easy. Being unobtrusive earned approval until it became a chain I didn't even notice I was carrying. My mom reached for the check folder. My father leaned back, relaxed. Their world moved forward while I held the weight of their expectations. On the surface, we were perfect. Holiday cards, smiles, dinners. But who got to occupy space mattered more than who smiled. I gripped the folder lightly, took a slow breath. I had been feeding this system for years. Not tonight. You should have arrived earlier. The service was perfect, my mom said, voice soft, practiced. Tiffany smirked again. We saved dessert for you. Well, kind of. The word always hit harder than I expected. Always the helper, never the chooser. The faint scent of butter and wine clung to the table. It was familiar, comforting, yet weighted with expectation. Their certainty that I'd comply was a system I had built for them without realizing it. I looked around, Dad avoiding my gaze, Mom smiling politely, Tiffany scrolling. The tension was silent but thick. My fingers hovered over the check folder and then retracted. I realized something. This wasn't about the meal. It was about certainty. They were certain I would arrive, that I would pay, that I would smooth everything over. And for the first time in years, I considered not performing. The server placed the leather check folder on the table, commanding attention. Mom tilted her head. You don't mind handling this, right? Tiffany glanced up, teasing, You're always good at this. Always. The word I had carried like a chain. Not tonight. My eyes narrowed slightly. My posture shifted. The decision was quiet, but final. I sat in the only chair left, folded my hands, and let the weight of the folder anchor me. I had been complicit for years. Tonight it ended. Not with anger, not with argument, but with clarity. Driving home, city lights smeared past the windshield. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Thank you for taking care of that. No warmth, no affection, just relief that the system continued without me. I was done feeding it. The next few days were quieter than I expected. No drama, no sudden calls or messages, just a strange emptiness where the usual obligations had been. Caleb and I moved through our routines without anyone else's calendar dictating us. I woke up without checking texts for unspoken expectations. I cooked dinner without wondering if someone else would show up or if I'd end up footing another surprise bill. Then, 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother, dinner tonight. Same place. No question marks, no timing details, just the expectation. My heart didn't tighten. I did not hesitate. I replied simply, yes. The restaurant was unchanged. Warm lighting, familiar hostess, the same polished surfaces. My parents were already seated. Tiffany was mid-story, gesturing wildly, her boyfriend nodding enthusiastically. Nothing about the table had shifted outwardly. Everything was choreography perfected over decades. I slid into my seat, calm and collected. My mother lightly touched my arm. There you are, she said. Orders were already placed, menus glanced at, drinks poured. Tiffany checked her phone between bites, sliding a shared plate closer to herself. My father laughed after his second glass of wine. Everything seemed exactly as expected. And yet, everything had changed. Halfway through, my mother asked casually, Oh, did you hear anything about that other arrangement? Another expense, another assumption. Not yet, I said. She nodded, unconcerned. We'll discuss it later. That word, later. It used to coil my stomach into knots. Tonight, it passed without effect. When dessert arrived, I caught the server's eye and nodded. The check folder landed at the edge of the table. Same place, same silence. My mother glanced at it, then at me. "Whenever you're ready," she said gently. I did not reach for it. I stood. "I am going to speak with the manager," I said, calm, measured. The table froze. Tiffany blinked. "Why?" she asked. I lowered my voice just enough for them to hear, but calm, precise. "I want to confirm something about the payment arrangements for tonight." The manager checked the system and nodded. "Previous authorizations are no longer active. We'll need a payment method from the party tonight." The table went silent. My mother's eyes sharpened. Her smile faltered. "Diana, you are not covering dinner?" "I am not," I said evenly. "Not tonight. Not anymore." Tiffany scoffed. "You're joking." "I am serious. I will not pay for what has always been assumed to be mine. I am done maintaining a system that has benefited no one but your expectations." My father leaned forward, confused, outraged. "You cannot just, this is family." "I am not stopping for drama," I said. "I am stopping for clarity. For myself. You taught me that love comes with an invoice, and I will no longer accept it." The manager waited patiently. My mother fumbled with her purse. My father hesitated with his wallet. For the first time, the confidence they carried so easily was gone. I sat back, folded my hands, and watched as the system collapsed silently, without anger, without argument, but completely undeniable. After that night, the ripple effects were immediate but subtle. Phones no longer buzzed with unspoken demands. Invitations arrived with a little more care, or sometimes not at all. Plans that once assumed my unquestioned participation suddenly required discussion. The effortless confidence my parents had carried began to waver, just enough to notice, but not enough to provoke confrontation. Tiffany stopped posting curated images of family dinners, the ones that highlighted her control over every detail. Her boyfriend faded from family interactions entirely. My parents did not apologize or attempt to justify years of assumptions. And yet, the most surprising outcome was how little guilt I felt. I had imagined this moment would sting. I thought I would mourn a loss, a fracture in family closeness. But I did not. Instead, there was clarity, a release from the weight I had carried silently. For years, I had smoothed over mistakes, paid hidden bills, covered what no one else would. That invisible labor, though framed as kindness, had drained me. Now it was no longer mine to carry. At home, life settled into a quieter rhythm. Caleb and I shared dinners without the rush or obligation. Conversations were ours alone. Time that had always belonged partially to others now felt completely my own. I had not cut my family off. I had simply stopped cushioning their lives, stopped absorbing the costs of their assumptions. When my parents reached out, I answered differently. Honest, direct. If they asked for help, I said no without explanation. They floundered briefly, but the world did not collapse. The system, once sustained by my silent compliance, unraveled in a controlled, almost peaceful way. And in that calm, I discovered something unexpected. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors. Doors you choose to open or keep closed. The restaurant incident became a quiet marker in my memory. It was not dramatic, not a scandal, but a turning point. A reminder that showing up, paying, and fixing things without question is not generosity, it is compulsion. And choosing to stop is not cruelty. It is clarity. Weeks turned into months, and life began to feel different in ways I had not anticipated. Family gatherings no longer carried the unspoken assumption that I would absorb the invisible labor of everyone else. When my parents invited me to dinner, it was now a true invitation, not a preordained expectation. I could arrive knowing I would not be carrying the weight of silent obligations. Tiffany's energy shifted too. Without my automatic compliance, she began noticing the gaps that had always been filled without question. Her stories at dinner were no longer punctuated by my quiet acquiescence. Her boyfriend could no longer rely on me smoothing interactions. The dynamics that had seemed permanent for decades were finally adjusting. At home, Life felt lighter than I had imagined. Caleb and I moved through our days without schedules dictated by anyone else's expectations. Conversations were honest, full, and ours alone. Our shared routines, once overshadowed by unspoken family obligations, now existed freely. Even when I helped, it was intentional, not automatic. And in that clarity, I realized something I had never allowed myself to feel before. I was free to exist fully on my own terms.